What's up everyone, back for another beer review, and today is another installment of Macro Monday here on the channel where I review a beer from a macro brewery or a macro-esque beer from a craft brewery. And the beer I'm reviewing today comes from Sapporo Breweries Ltd, and they are headquartered in Tokyo, Japan, and this is their Sapporo Premium Beer. So this is a premium lager that comes in at 4.9% alcohol by volume, 18 IBUs at the time of review. This can is approximately 3.5 months old. So full disclosure, I've had this one numerous times before. However, and I like to say this a lot when I do these Macro Mondays, but I've never had it in a setting like this. Anytime I've ever had this beer, it's been at like a hibachi restaurant or eating sushi or just hanging with friends. I've never sat down and dissected it like I do with my reviews. And I notice when I do that with a lot of these macro or macro-esque beers is that usually I get something different when I'm drinking them on a fresh palate with no food involved and just kind of breaking it down. So I'm really curious to see how this one is when we strip away everything but the beer itself. So I know they have a bunch of different Sapporo beers. They have, what is it, the original? I think they have the reserve. They have, I think it's relatively new, but the black beer, which is like the dark lager version. But this is the only one I've ever had, so I might have to check out the others if I can get my hands on them. But anyway, this one, this specific can anyway, is actually brewed in Guelph, Ontario, Canada, is imported into Tarrytown, New York. Now, they have a handful of different breweries, I think, in the world. I don't know if they have one in the US. I think they did at one point. I don't know if they still do, but yeah, so this is imported from Canada. It's a Japanese beer, technically. So, interesting. Anyway, we're gonna give it a pour. Now, I also don't know, and I couldn't find if this is made with rice, because I think the reserve might be made with rice, or maybe the original. So I don't know if this one actually is still brewed with rice or not. Would this be technically still a Japanese rice lager? I don't really know. You would think maybe they would mention it, but I didn't see it anywhere. I could have sworn, yeah, it is, but I don't know for sure. So anyway, that looks like a lager. It just totally does. It has the crystal clear, kind of golden color to it. Golden straw color, has just over a finger of a beautiful, bright white, fluffy, soap sudsy looking head. Like I said, clarity's beautiful, good carbonation coming up. Hold it up to the light. Yeah, I mean, that's picture perfect as far as a beer like this goes. So let's get a nose. I'm really not getting a whole lot. Maybe a very light, malty kind of aroma, like a little bit of like a sweet, like corny kind of tinge. Again, I don't know if it's corn or rice, maybe both, maybe neither. I don't think this is like an all malt beer. I think there's definitely some kind of adjunct in it. Yeah, it has like a sweet, bready kind of grainy characteristic. What's funny is I'm really not getting anything else. Yeah, the aroma is very mild, like maybe one of the most mild aromas of any of like the Macro Monday beers that I've reviewed. I think the only one that maybe compares off the top of the dome piece, I would say Bush Lager, just a regular Bush. That one was very just kind of a step up from water. This kind of has that same aroma, but maybe a little bit sweeter. Anyway, it doesn't smell bad, so let's get into it. Cheers, everyone. Or should I say Kampai? I probably said that incorrectly, so I apologize. This honestly reminds me of Bush. Not specifically like flavor-wise, just there isn't a whole lot in the taste. Body's nice, 4.9%. It's a little bit of a step up from, like your typical light lagers, adjunct lagers. It's more like lower side of medium, approaching medium, which is nice. The mouthfeel, it's super crisp. It's very clean. It's refreshing. It's crushable. The taste, however, is just kind of there. It's like front to back, a sweet, grainy, bready kind of malt character. That's front to back. That's like the dominant character on the palate. There's really nothing else. Like a lot of times I'll get orchard fruit or maybe a little citrus, something else going on. And then on the back of the palate, there's a pretty big full-on dryness to it. I would say that this one is brewed with rice because a lot of the Japanese rice lagers or Japanese style rice lagers have that big dryness, but I'm not positive, but it does have like a full-on dryness, which balances it out. Nothing inoffensive, or should I say nothing offensive on the palate, very inoffensive as a whole. Can't really taste the alcohol. Mild, very mild bitterness, if anything. Now I see why this beer pairs so perfectly with the foods that I eat with it. You know, going to a hibachi restaurant or having some sushi or something in that realm. You can just pound them back, very refreshing, crisp on the palate, almost like a palate cleanser, but obviously almost 5% alcohol by volume. But, you know, I got to be honest with all of you out there, and it's just like, this is just, it exists. It's like kind of like that Busch where it's like, yeah, this is what I used to think all beer used to taste like before I started to get into like, you know, drinking craft beer and a bunch of different beers. It's just like, there's not much to it. Trust me, I've had much worse beers that are very offensive, you know, astringent. I've had craft beers that are worse than this, but it's just, I've had so many better adjunct lagers in general, cheaper lagers. It's okay. It's decent. I wouldn't call it solid for me. I'd say it's okay and decent. It's fine. It's not too sweet. It's not too bitter. The dryness is nice because it does have that sweet kind of bready, grainy thing going on, so it balances it out. It might be a little bit too dry for some. I don't love dryness, but I think it works well in here. Yeah, I mean, I don't need to make this any longer than it already is. So Sapporo Premium Beer. Stylistically, for like just say like a premium lager or like maybe a what would be like the BJCP thing, like an international pal lager or something like that. I think this is probably in like the mid to high threes, like 3.5 to 3.75. For my own personal preference, I'm going to give this a low 3.25. I'm going to go 3.15. I just feel like that's kind of where it lands for me, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, I got to be honest with you guys, and it's not bad. It's just so many better beers that I could grab for a cheaper price and are more readily available. So I'll still continue to buy this one when I go to those restaurants and I'm eating that that type of food. I'm just going to, but you know, I'll probably never buy this to just drink at home by myself, or even have it on hand for friends or whatever. Price point availability. I think this was $10.99 a 6-pack, and I think 12 packs are like $15.99. Not a terrible price for a technically an imported beer, but this one is brewed in Canada and then imported, so it's not like this is imported from Japan. So a little bit pricey in that aspect. And then when you take in consideration, like I could get Busch, that I think I like a little bit more than this personally. Or maybe let's just say Busch is very similar to this. Again, not in terms of how it tastes and everything, just like how I feel about the beer, like where I rate it, how I feel about it. I can get like a 30 rack of Busch for like $18. So, that at $15.99, a couple bucks more, I can, instead of getting a 12 pack, I can get like 30 cans of it, right? So yeah, it is what it is. Availability, I mean, I don't know where this gets all across the US. I'd imagine most people see it. I don't know how difficult it is to get any of like the other beers they have. Now I'm curious to try, like, I think it's the Reserve and then the Black beer. I want to try those at some point just to see what they're all about. But this I'd probably never go back to. And yeah, again, the whole rice thing, somebody post in the comment section, let me know if this is still brewed with rice. That finish would indicate there is probably some rice in here. It just has that really substantial dryness that I definitely get with Japanese rice lagers, but it could just be the beer itself. They could be using just corn, maybe nothing, but I think there's some kind of adjunct in here. So anyway, if you've had this one before, post in the comment section. Let me know. Let me know what you think about it. I would love to know. That's the whole reason I do these reviews, and I'm sure a lot of you out there have had this one before. It is what it is. So anyway, oh yeah, 4.9%. Yeah, you really can't tell. It's, again, this is a lower ABV lager of some sort, premium lager, whatever. It's just, it's inoffensive, but there's just not a lot going on. Like, this isn't a beer where, some folks would be like, oh, that beer's trash or that's terrible. It's not. It's just, it exists. In my puny brain, I'm just saying this beer exists. This is, if someone was to hand me a beer, like you see like on TV where it's like, oh, I'll order a beer, they don't specify the brand, and then you get this, you're like, yeah, this is what a beer is, but doesn't make it good. Anyway, appreciate everybody stopping by for another beer review here on the Beer Patrol. To the next one. Cheers. Is it Kampai or Kampai? Is it K-A-N-P-A-I or is it K-A-M-P-A-I? I don't know. You tell me. Cheers.